I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but Alex Pereira is 36 years old and getting better. Last night, he knocked out Jiri Prochazka in the second round with a beautiful step-up left high kick. It was just a magnificent finish. He is truly the face of the UFC right now. We also had two really awesome guys. Diego Lopez got a win over Dan Ige, which was supposed to be Brian Ortega, who pulled out just before the fight happened. And then obviously Garry managed to go out there and get the dub over Michael Venom Page. So look, guys, sound off in the comments. Who do you want to see Alex Pereira fight next? Because I have my own opinions, and we'll be going over that yet later. From Notorious to Poatan, it's like Alex Pereira is the face of the UFC now. He is one of the more popular fighters for good reason. Obviously, we watch him, and every time he steps up to the plate, he steps up and he shows you that, hey, as Max Hollow, I've been saying this a lot on the show, a lot. Hey, I am him, and I'm inclined to believe him. And he doesn't even say that. All he says is "Chama" and "huh." That's the two memes going around with it. But Alex Pereira, like this event was supposed to be Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, but what this event ended up symbolizing was the move on from the Notorious era to the Poatan era, as short as it may be. But we are fully in Alex Pereira era now. That sounds really cool to say, Alex Pereira era. He knocked out Jiri Prochazka in a fantastic fight. I mean, there's nothing more you could say than Pereira fought brilliantly. So the low kicks were a big thing in the first fight. It was a big thing in the second fight. He managed to not get hit quite as much from Jiri Prochazka's we'll call it unorthodox striking. It was a really great performance. I can't stop raving about it, guys. It was just that good. It was that good. So yeah, what is next for Alex Pereira? That's really what there's not much. Magomed Ankalaev is the obvious next choice. There's nobody else you could put in front of him, except, there's the Izzy fight lingering out there. Now, this would require Israel Adesanya to go out there and beat Dricus du Plessis, which is in 2 months. Alex Pereira wants to take some time off, so let Izzy fight, let him heal up. If he beats Dricus du Plessis, they're 1-1 in MMA. We're not going to count the 2 kickboxing wins because this is a different sport. Alex Pereira has the 205 title. He has it. Izzy couldn't get it. Let's do it. Let's book it. That's the fight that I think is the biggest story. That's what I think the UFC wants to do. There's also Jamahal Hill that I included in this, but I mean, look right here at what it says. No. In my article I wrote about it, no. That is just not what I care to see at all. We're firmly in the Alex Pereira era of the UFC, and it probably won't last much longer. He might go up to heavyweight and get smashed by, I don't know, John Jones or Tom Aspinall, whoever they put him against, but at the same time, he's fantastic. What he's overcome is amazing. I mean, he really has done some really cool things with his career, with his kickboxing and stuff. He really come out the mud and just overcome some horrible demons. He overcame some just terrible things, and we talk about this a lot, how, like, for example, Tyson Fury in his book Behind the Mask, I got it right here, actually, Behind the Mask by Tyson Fury. I'll put the link to this in the bio, actually, in the description. Go check it out. But Tyson Fury had the same problem. He was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. And Alex Pereira had this problem, too. And this destroys a lot of people. It destroys a lot of careers. A lot of people are derailed by reaching a certain level of talent or fame and the money getting to him. Mike Tyson's a perfect example of that. Teddy Atlas talked about it in his book Atlas. I'll put that in the description too. That's a really good, both of these, Behind the Mask and Atlas by Teddy Atlas, very good reads. But Tyson Fury talks about how, let's pull up the excerpt right here. He talked about he stood there like he was an alcoholic done for all this time. I stood there in my underpants and thought about all the troubles in my behavior. I knew I couldn't continue the way I was going. He's talking about when he was up 400 pounds. He was the champ, and now he's doing all these drugs, all this alcohol. In that moment, I remember reading the biography of former world heavyweight champion George Foreman. how he came to a point when he got down on his knees and cried out to God to help him. So in my bedroom, that's what I did. I cried my eyes out. The floor was wet with tears and sweat as I cried out for help. When I got back up, I knew the comeback was on, even though there was so many negative things still around my life at that time, so many obstacles I had to face. But this was more than just about returning to boxing. This was more about returning to sanity. See, Tyson Fury found a solace in fighting. And the way Alex Pereira talks about, like, for example, when he won a title and Israel Adesanya lost, he gave out a message that, you remember that message where he's talking about, Israel, I'm right here. He said, come to daddy, which is kind of a tease. But he also talked about how, get back up, get on the horse. You motivated me. I want to motivate you to get out of this dark spot that he's in now. Who knows if Izzy took that advice, but, you know, I think him overcoming his problem, his alcoholism and stuff, is a really big driver into what he's become. Because he was a great fighter beforehand. He was a really good fighter. But now he's the face of the biggest fight organization in the world. And that is the UFC. Like, boxing is probably a bigger sport worldwide, but the UFC is the biggest singular organization outside the WWE, if you count that. I kind of don't. So yeah, great win by Alex Pereira. There was improved defense from Alex Pereira in this. So Luke Thomas pointed this out, actually. Jiri Prochazka in the first fight landed 22 significant strikes. And think about this too. He didn't point this out, but think about this. Those 22 significant strikes were also in tandem with 2 minutes and 45 seconds of control time on the ground in their first round. The second fight, Jiri Prochazka landed 7. Pereira's figured out distance. He knows when to throw strikes. He's getting better at it. He's 36 years old doing this, getting better. This fight, we saw Prochazka try to do the same thing. Push him against the fence, get the takedown. And in my film study of Alex Pereira, we saw him grab that overhook. He did it here. Grabbed the overhook, kind of denied the takedown, put his hands down, kind of blocked the punches that were coming. So he's got the overhook, and then he's fighting the wrist with the other hand. Magnificent setup. It was just pure perfection. Alex Pereira's amazing. Oh, just one of my favorite fighters right now. And I know he's 36. We don't have much longer. In 7 days, a week, he'll be 37 years old. We don't have that much more time left with him. Enjoy, guys, I'm telling you this right now. Enjoy him while he's here. Because he won't be here much longer. You'll only be able to go back and watch replays. Don't hate on him. Don't hate on him. But yeah, another big thing going into this fight, like, Jiri Prochazka was going to have to check the low kicks. And that was kind of the theme of the first fight, and that's how Alex Pereira kind of crippled him. Now, Alex Pereira did land more low kicks in this fight. Or he did land some low kicks. I won't say more, but he landed some low kicks. Jiri didn't check a single one of them. What are we doing? He threw a, when Jiri Prochazka was in southpaw, he threw a open side body kick. He just kept kicking the body. And that's what set up that finish. Okay? So think about this. He's kicking the body. Jiri Prochazka, it's the same thing. The same thing that happens with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. Any real high kick setup is perfectly set up by the kicks to the body. When I see you going to kick, I'm bringing my arms down to block it. Okay? I want to block the body kick. And that's when they come up top. And it wasn't a rear one either. It was a step up. So that's when he took his back foot. So he's an orthodox fighter, so his left foot's forward, and he took his back foot and brought it up to the front, and then pop. Somebody on X said it was him switching stances. It wasn't quite him switching stances. It was more or less just stepping up. Think about Alexander Volkanovski's step-up low kick. That's what we talk about all the time. Pereira does this on his low kicks too. So when he has a fighter that like switches stances, like Israel Adesanya or Jiri Prochazka, for example, they'll go from southpaw to orthodox. You don't want to kick the inside of the leg because that leads the right or for an southpaw a left cross right up the middle. That's what Dustin Poirier knocked down Justin Gaethje with in the first fight. And the adjustment Gaethje did, and Pereira does this a lot, what he did was he started kicking the outside instead of the inside of the leg. So think about he kicked by his pecker. I said that in one of the videos a long time. I was laughing at myself saying pecker on stream. But he kicks the outside instead of the inside by the balls, basically. Or not by the balls, but more like the calf. We're talking about a calf kick. So that outside low kick when Jiri switches to southpaw, when Israel Adesanya switches to southpaw. Alex Pereira is going to kick the outside leg. He does make a mistake every now and then, very, very seldomly, where he'll kick the inside, and that's what got him taken down against Jan Blachowicz. He kicked the inside of the low kick, or the inside of the leg, and Alex Pereira got his leg caught, and it didn't jar Jan Blachowicz aside enough, and it really kind of just got him taken down. But he doesn't do that for the most part. Instead, he's kicking the outside, and he did it to Jiri Prochazka all night, kicking the outside. We saw the left hook do its thing. Obviously, that caught him, and then, this time, Herb Dean was like, Jiri, if you're going to get stopped, we're going to make sure you're really stopped. So, great win by him. Alex Pereira, give him time. Let him come back in December. Either do Ankalaev or Israel Adesanya. Jamahal Hill, I'm good on. I'm really good on. It's not that good of a fight. Diego Lopes, Dan Ige, not Brian Ortega. A couple hours before the fight, they're like, yeah, it's not going to be him. It's not going to be Ortega. How about unprofessional as it gets from Brian Ortega? First of all, hey, let's fight at 45. Ortega's like, okay, I'll fight at 45. Calls him at 3 a.m. the next morning and says, hey, we need to fight at 55. Great. Diego Lopes is a dog. I'm here to save the show. And he did. The day of the fight, hey, I can't fight. About as unprofessional as it gets from Brian Ortega. And I've never been a Brian Ortega fan. He's a great fighter, great jiu-jitsu player, for sure. But I've never been a fan of Brian Ortega. He just seems kind of douchey. And this kind of proved it to me, if you want to be honest. So in steps, on short notice, Dan Ige, who is fighting in a couple weeks. Lopes looked great. And that's against a tough Dan Ige. Obviously his last fight was against Sadiq Youssef. A bit of a step up from Dan Ige to Sadiq Youssef. Really big step up, actually. Lopes managed to, get a couple takedowns, a little bit of control time. His hands looked good. He didn't let Ige get working with his hands until that third round. Dan Ige had a really good third round. That really concerns me about Diego Lopes. If you remember correctly, the Movsar Evloev fight was the same thing. The third round, he let Evloev back into the fight. What happens if we're going 5? What happens if he's up against Ilia Topuria in round 5, where we've seen Topuria in round 4 and 5 just piecing up Josh Emmett? That's dangerous for you. But the fact that Diego Lopes came in on short notice to fight Brian Ortega and ended up fighting Dan Ige speaks a lot about him. So I got the rankings pulled up right here. Surprise, right? There's really nobody for Diego Lopes to break into the top 10 with except for Movsar Evloev. Like, I'm not fighting Brian Ortega. He should drop in the rankings to number 10 after what he did here. But you got Ilia Topuria at number 1, Max Holloway, Brian Ortega at 3, Yair Rodriguez, Movsar Evloev at 5. They have that history, a close fight. They can run that back. Arnold Allen's booked for 304. Josh Emmett, Sterling probably won't fight him, even though that would be a banger. Wow. He needs to be ranked higher, Diego Lopes, because he just put on a show this weekend. I can't say enough about it. He was the most fun fighter that there was on the card coming in, except for Alex Pereira, obviously. Roman Dolidze got a weird decision over Anthony Smith, who all he had to do was keep the fight standing, and he ended up getting taken down by, I can't get a takedown, Roman Dolidze. It was horrible. Horrible fight. And then he got outstruck by Roman Dolidze, the grappler. Terrible performance from Anthony Smith. I'd never care to see him fight again. That was just blah. Roman Dolidze is not even that great of a fighter. Let's be real. Macy Chassaw beat Mayra Bueno Silva after Mayra Bueno Silva looked good in the first round and then horrible the rest of the fight. She's huge, but she just gasses. So easy. We saw it against Raquel Pennington. That's how she lost the title. Didn't she get finished, technically? That one was a weird one, though. No, it was a decision. Okay. But no, that was a weird one, though, because Macy Chassaw gets on top. Now, I'm proud of Macy Chassaw. Louisiana girl through and through. That made me so excited. I'm like a Louisiana guy, and I'm going to pull for my state. But she managed to get on top and drop one singular boom elbow. Cut the eye of Mayra Bueno Silva. Starts bleeding bad. They eventually get up, and the ref's like, hey, Doc, come here. Now, if you know anything about it, and I forget who it was. I'm sorry for not being able to give you credit, but he said doctors aren't looking at just blood when they're looking at your face. There's nerves up here that can be damaged. And you don't want nerve damage. Like, you want to avoid that. Mayra Bueno Silva, she does not deserve to have nerve damage over her eyes. So they called the fight due to a cut. And if you're going to call a fight due to a cut, that's one to do. Like Brendan Logney, or however you say his last name, in PFL this weekend too. So yeah, good win for Mayra Bueno, or for Macy Chassaw, my Louisiana hometown friend, I guess. I've never talked to Macy Chassaw before. Ian Garry, unpopular opinion, he fought how he should have fought, and he fought well. He took on a tough Michael Venom Page, and if you tuned into the live stream Fight Companion, you would have heard how we talked about how Ian Garry, he's not the faster guy, so what's going to happen is he's going to have to grab a hold of MVP, and he did. He got a hold of Michael Venom Page, and Page was like landing on him too. Like, he's the better striker for sure. So how does he win this fight? He got on the back, and he was fishing for a rear naked choke, control time, eating up minutes. And he won the first round, and it looked like he was about to lose the second round when MVP on top managed to get up and get to the back. Now, MVP was clueless on what to do once Ian Garry was there. He didn't know what to do. Like, he's literally bending over. Gary's on his back. He's a little high on his back, so what are we going to do? He start twerking like Derek Lewis does. Get him to slide off, and then you end up on top. Michael Venom Page did not know that. Sucks, man, because I thought MVP was going to win that fight, and the little bit that we did see from that fight, I know MVP striking is better than Ian Garry's, but this is not kickboxing, this is not karate, this is mixed martial arts, and Ian Garry had tools in his toolbox to use to chew up time and to control MVP. MVP's the faster guy, despite being 40 years old. He's faster than the young Ian Garry. There's nothing Ian Garry can do about that, right? Except grab him. We saw this with Adrian Yanez when he fought Rob Font. Yanez was the faster guy. He's piecing Rob Font up. What's Rob Font do? I have to slow you down. Grabs the back of his head, bam, fires in an uppercut. Now, Ian Garry didn't take that approach necessarily. Instead, what he did was, I took you, put you against the fence, and we worked to take you down. We chewed up time. And it worked magnificently. So Ian Garry got the win. I don't like it. I think he loses to like Shavkat Rakhmonov, who he called out. And like, if I'm not, what's Shavkat ranked? Let me see real quick. Because, let's see, there's featherweight, welterweight right there. Shavkat's ranked number 3. I mean, that's a good fight to make. You got Jack Della you could book him against. You could try and revisit Colby Covington. I mean, that'd be a big name to get him against. Kamaru Usman is out there, and they were talking about MVP versus him. I really like the Stephen Thompson fight, despite it fighting down in the rankings. If we're going to do a fun fight and build his name, that's the way to go. But yeah, good win, man. I can't. A lot of people are hating on Ian Garry. It's a horrible performance, and he's had some bad performances all in a row. Pulling those up now. Let's see, 15-0 though. That's a good start. But his last 3 fights? Yeah, Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and Michael Page. That's some good fights, some good wins. But like a split decision win to Jeff Neal. A decision to Neil Magny. Come on, man. He's got the knockout over Dan Rodriguez, which was nice. The Song Canong. He's looked good. Man, he's been in the UFC for a minute. 7 wins? No, 8-0 in the UFC. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, so Ian Garry, good win by him. Bright future ahead. I just think there's some boogeymen at 170 that can give him problems. A lot of wrestling problem for him, like really problematic matchups there. Joe Pyfer offered Marc-Andre Barriault with the overhand right. I literally got up. I was like, all right, I'm getting ready to go live. Let me go take a leak, get me something to drink, and come back. And after I get back from taking a whiz, he's on the ground. I'm like, oh, Joe Pyfer did his thing. Joe looked good. He was more patient. I like the Paul Craig fight. Andre Fili beat Cub Swanson in a close split decision. Jean Silva knocked out and brutalized Charles Jourdain. That was a good fight. Peyton Talbot, I mean, what can you say in 19 seconds about him? I wanted to talk about him more. He's a fun fighter, a really good striker. Moved up to 9-0. Dude's so good. And this was his 3rd fight in the UFC. Kind of fighting not great people, but, he's got a real promising thing going for him. Jillian Robertson beat Michelle Waterson Gomez. Jillian Robertson is a solid fighter at 115. And Michelle Waterson Gomez retired, and she's been around for forever. So she hung up the gloves, and probably for the best, because man, she's getting up there in age. How old is Karate Hot? 38 at 115. That's all your advantages are gone. Martin Buday beat Andrei Arlovsky. A sad day. Arlovsky does not intend to re-sign with the UFC. Fought out his contract. So, wow, he's 34-24. Horrible record for a legend of the sport. Ray Suryua looked really good. Beat Carlos Hernandez. And then Ricky Simón got battered by Vinicius Oliveira. Now, is Ricky Simón shot? Maybe so. Or Vinicius Oliveira is that good. We'll find out, I guess, when both of them fight next, because it's a weird situation with that fight, I guess you would say. So yeah, great win, great decent card. Actually, no, not really. It was kind of a boring card if you want to be honest. But Alex Pereira got his win, and we know how Alex Pereira fights, and he's getting better at doing what he does. In our film study, we talked about how Alex Pereira conducts his offensive onslaught, his left hooks, low kicks, digging the overhook when he's against the fence, all that kind of good stuff that makes him such a good, prime, pristine fighter. He's magnificent, and this right here really does go over everything that he does. It's a deep look into the game of Alex Pereira.